My name is Carl Vister. In fact, I never thought I would fall to this point, sitting in an international ship that was broken like a waste, staring at the dark planet outside the porthole, with only one thought in my mind: if I messed up this time, I might have no life. In the 24th century Silver River, resources have long been exhausted like dry riverbeds. The United Nations bets its last hope in the surrounding star field where birds do not shit. And I, an engineer who was once blown to heaven, has now become a piece that can be snatched at any time in the Star Alliance. This planet, called Hygiene 13, knows that it is not a good place when you hear the name. From the viewing screen of the ship, its surface is full of gray-black rock layers, as if it was burned by something. Occasionally there are several ape-red cracks, tearing open the surface like a wound, revealing a strange light. Aiden Gray next to me, my dead party in technical support, was chewing the synthetic protein bar and knocking on the operating panel, muttering in his mouth, "Carl, do you think there is a deep and purified mine here? It looks more like a tomb." "Close your mouth, Aiden," I replied without a good mood, still staring at the screen. "If we had no mine, we would have run away in vain this trip, and my debt would not have disappeared by itself." When I said the debt, I felt a lot of pain. After the family was destroyed, I owe the Alliance a lot of debts, and the last miner left by my dad was detained. If it weren't for the high rewards for this nuclear cracking plan, I wouldn't have taken on this life-threatening mission. Go deep into the shell for hundreds of kilometers to extract super-energy crystals that can drive a starship across light years? It sounds cool, but in fact, the survival rate of this task is so low that even AI is unwilling to make a decision. "Okay, don't be sad," Aiden patted my shoulder and grinned. "With me here, I can fix any broken equipment. Besides, isn't that woman named Lena the best security officer? With her here, we can at least have a few more days of life." When it comes to Lena's soul, my eyebrows can't help but startle. She is the security officer of our broken team. She is as cold as ice blocks, with a long expression on her face, and her eyes can kill people. I heard that she had participated in several fatal tasks and was able to escape unscathed every time, but no one in the team knew her details. She was always wearing a squid armor, and the modified stare gun in her hand never left, as if she was ready to kill whoever she could. When I first saw her, she stared at me and said, "Carl Vist, I hope you are as smart as they say, otherwise we will all die." My heart skipped a beat at that time, and I felt that this woman had something to do with it. It took 5 minutes to land and count down. The AI voice of the ship started coldly, interrupting my thoughts. The atmosphere in the ship suddenly became tight, and several team members began to check the equipment, complaining in their mouths that there was no shock reduction system like this broken ship. I stood up, walked to the operating platform, and rechecked the machine I designed, Deep Cylinder 7, which was the only thing I could do in the past few years. Its diamond can withstand extreme pressure from the depth of the wall shell, and the built-in detection module can also alert the ground damage in advance. In theory, it can lead us to the core of Hygiene 13, but theory is often not worth mentioning in such ghost places. "Carl, there is news in the league." Aiden suddenly raised his head, his temperament was a little uneven. Drake Harves made a voice, saying that we must complete the task, otherwise, the consequences will be at their own risk. Drake Harves, a high-level member of the Star Mineral Alliance, is the direct responsibility of our mission. I have never seen him, but I heard that this guy was cruel and ruthless, and everyone below called him Iron Claws because he never left a living mouth. Aiden played the voice out, and the sound was as low as if it was climbing out from the ground. "Mr. Vista, I have high hopes for your ability. The mine of Black 13 is the hope of the future of mankind and the only chance for you to win back freedom. Don't let me down, otherwise, you know how the Alliance deals with the failure." After listening, I felt a slight swelling on my back. Aiden curled his lips and said in a short voice, "This guy is really scary. What kind of way to deal with it? Isn't it just to throw us into a black hole?" "Don't say nonsense," I glared at him, but I was unsure. The Alliance has never been patient with bottom-level developers. No one will take a look at us even if we die. The landing program is started, and everyone is in place. The voice of AI started to sound again, and the ship began to shake violently, as if it was about to fall apart. I grabbed the safety belt and looked through the porthole as the Black 13 got closer and closer. The ape-red cracks on the surface were like big bloody mouths, waiting to swallow us. Lena walked over and stood beside me, speaking in a cold language. "Carl, the first thing to do after landing is to build a defense area. The geological data here is completely unreliable and may collapse at any time." "I understand." I clicked the head and tried to see something from her face, but she looked expressionless and just turned around to check her weapon. The ship finally landed in a relatively flat area on the planet's surface, and the huge impact force almost spit out. The door opened slowly, and a biting cold wind swelled up with the smell of sulfur. The air outside was so thin that it made people breathless. I put on my helmet, activated the oxygen circulation system, and walked out with the team members. The ground under the foot was covered with black broken rocks. When you stepped on it, you clicked on it. On the horizon, the red cracked light jumped like a ghost fire, and there was an indescribable sense of pressure in the air. "This place is really a bad place." Aiden carried the detent type AI and scanned it from all over the place. "The surface temperature is minus 60 degrees below zero, the radiation value exceeds the standard 3 times, and there are unknown interference signals, so the communication equipment may have problems. Don't worry about these for now." I pointed to a rift that was far away. "We have to build a temporary base there, and the Deeper 7 needs a stable terrain to start. Lena, take a few people around and patrol me. I don't want to be stolen by something on the first day." Lena clicked the head and took 2 team members with her stairs and guns away. Aiden and I started to install base modules. This thing was provided by the Alliance. It was of great quality and had lenses on the edges. It was stuck several times when it was installed. Aiden beats and sneers, "The bastards in the Alliance, we don't joke about our lives, and they don't give them any similar equipment. Save some energy." I smiled bitterly. It's not a waste to be able to go back alive. After the base was barely set up, Lena and the others also came back. Her face was harder than she had just seen, and she said in a low voice, "There are unusual activities on the west side of the rift, not geological phenomena, like traces of biological movements. I suggest that all members be on the verge of tonight." "Bio?" I felt nervous. There was no mention of life on the information of Haging 13. "Are you sure?" "Okay." She glanced at me coldly. "It's not the first time I've seen similar traces. Carl, this place is more dangerous than you think." I didn't say anything, just clicked a little, and started to wonder in my heart. The information the Alliance gave us was clearly incomplete, and it might even be intentionally ignoring something. Aiden interrupted at this time. "Hey, don't scare yourself. Maybe they are just tiny animals. Our guns are not vegetarians." "I hope so." Lena said no more, but just turned around to arrange a vigil shift. As night fell, there were no stars in the sky of Black 13, only a dead darkness, and the light of the cracks on the surface became even more dazzling, as if it was whispering. I sat at the base, staring at the Deep 7 control panel, my brain full of miscellaneous ideas. The mission just started, and the pressure was already too great to breathe. Where is the mine? What are those so-called creatures? And Lena, how much did she know that she didn't tell us? "Carl, go to bed." Aiden patted my shoulder. "I will still have to go down the rift tomorrow. It's not enough to be mentally unconscious." "I can't sleep." I slammed my head, my eyes still staring at the screen. "I always think there's something wrong here. What can I do?" Aiden said, "Isn't it just a broken planet? We dug up the mine, got the reward, patted our butt and left." I smiled reluctantly, but I was not that happy in my heart. Black Purple 13, the name itself is like a curse, and we are like a group of people thrown into the offering of deep purple. The next morning, we packed up our equipment and prepared to go down to the Rift Valley for the first detection. The Deeper 7 type is fixed to the mobile platform and is steadily driven towards the edge of the rift. I stood in front, looking at the depths of the rift through the display screen of the helmet. The ape red lights seemed to be alive, flickering and dark, making people creepy. Lena stood beside me, her thrust gun was loaded, and her voice was low. "Carl, listen to my fingers after going down. Any abnormal situation, retreat first." "I understand," I pointed a little. Although I was unhappy with her voice and her order, I also knew that she had made sense. The moving platform began to descend, the rock walls of the rift slowly rose on both sides of us, the air became thinner, and the oxygen circulation system in the helmet made a low sound. Aiden operates the AIN behind and reports data from time to time. The depth is 50 meters, the terrestrial structure is stable, and it is not unusual. "Wait, Carl, there is energy reaction ahead." "What energy reaction?" I turned my head suddenly and stared at a screen. At the end, a blurred red signal was shown, like some kind of high-energy source, but it was located at the bottom of the rift, and it was several hundred meters away from us. "It may be a mine retention radiation," Aiden said excitedly. "Carl, we may have found the right place." Before I could reply, Lena suddenly shouted, "Stop! Everyone is ready to fight." Her voice was filled with a rare stern look. I looked through her video and saw that at the bottom of the rift, the red lights suddenly burst out, sweeping over like a group of flames. At the same time, a low roar came from deep, like the roar of some kind of creature. "What a ghost thing is this, mother?" Aiden's voice changed, and he rushed to start the defense system in a hurry. My heart beat faster, and there was only one thought in my brain: this mission was indeed not that simple. The moving platform shook violently, as if it was hit by something. Lena quickly lifted her stairs and opened several guns in the direction of the light. The blue energy beam tore through the darkness, but the roar was getting closer and closer, as if it was surrounding it from all directions. I bit my teeth and turned on the emergency mode of the deeper 7 type, preparing to open the diamond, but at this moment, the communication channel in the helmet suddenly emitted a harsh noise, and then a low and stern voice sounded, "You shouldn't come here." I was stunned, and Aiden stayed in place, his face turned pale. "Carl, what is this? Is the AI malfunctioning?" "Not AI," Lena's voice was cold as ice, "this is a warning." I hadn't reacted yet, and the light from the depths of the rift suddenly condensed into a huge shadow, approaching us. The shadow is not like any known creature, like some kind of flowing darkness, with a suffocating pressure. I felt cold in my heart, tightly holding the control rod, and whispered, "Everyone, ready to retreat, there is something strange here." But the shadow seemed not to be planning to let us go. Its speed suddenly accelerated, accompanied by a sharp roar, and rushed in. The moment the shadow swept over, my brain was blank, and my heart was so fast that it was about to explode. The air in the rift seemed to have suddenly solidified, and the oxygen circulation system in the helmet made a rapid buzzing sound, as if warning me, "I'm really having a big time this time." I pulled the control rod suddenly, and the diamond head of the Deep 7 type began to rotate at high speed, making a harsh metal friction sound, and tried to open a retreat on the rock wall. "Carl, don't come on." Lena's voice came from the communication channel, carrying a rare anxious look. "That thing is not something we can deal with. Retreat, now," she said, and continued to thrust the thrust gun, and the blue energy beam shot towards the black shadow like a rain spot, but it was useless at all. The shadow seemed to be completely unaffected, and even when the energy beam penetrated it, a low smile made me sweat in my back. "What kind of monster is this, mother?" Aiden shouted from behind, knocking on the AIN with his hands. "The defense system is full, and the energy reaction is getting stronger and stronger. Carl, we have to run, otherwise we will be completely finished." His voice was trembling, and it was obviously scary. "Close your mouth and help me stabilize the platform," I yelled back with my teeth and fingers flying on the control panel. The moving platform began to rise slowly, but the speed was as slow as a turtle. Gravel fell on the rock walls on both sides of the rift, and it made a huge sound when it hit the platform. The black shadow seemed to realize that we were about to run, and let out a sharp roar, and the speed suddenly accelerated, and it rushed forward like a group of black fogs. "Lena, cover it!" I shouted, and at the same time, I transferred all the energy of the Deep 7 type to the push-in system, and tried to accelerate the removal of the map. Lena didn't say anything, but just turned on her head coldly and changed into a high-explosive energy box, which was a crazy move towards the direction of the black shadow. The light of the explosion illuminated the bottom of the rift, and the black shadow was blown away for a short time, but it regained again after a few seconds, and even became larger, as if mocking us for powerlessness. This thing doesn't take physical attack. Lena gritted her teeth, and there was a helpless voice in her voice. Carl, don't expect to win, run hard. Her words fell, and the platform suddenly shook violently, as if it was hit by something heavy object. I looked down and found that part of the black shadow had been swelled to the bottom of the platform, like a touch of some liquid, constantly swaying the metal structure, making a sizzling sound. Aiden, cut the bottom energy module. I shouted, and tried to adjust the center of gravity of the platform. Aiden was busy operating the end, and his mouth was still shaking. This broken thing is designed like garbage. Carl, you said there are monsters here, and I will never die. After a few seconds, he finally cut off the energy of the block, and the vibration of the platform was slightly relieved, but the shadow's touch did not stop and began to climb upside down, as if he wanted to swallow us all. My heart was cold, and my brain was flying rapidly, trying to find a way out. The depth of the rift shows that we have risen by 200 meters and are still quite far from the surface, but if we continue to resist, we will probably be completely covered without waiting for the climb. The communication channel in the helmet suddenly emitted another harsh noise, and then the low and silent sound echoed again. You can't escape, this is our domain. It's this ghost thing again. Aiden almost jumped up. Carl, this thing will say, it's definitely not an ordinary creature. His voice was filled with panic, but I didn't care about him because the black shadow's touch had climbed to the edge of the platform, less than 5 meters away from me. I could clearly see that the touch was not a physical body, but a certain translucent energy body, with agary red light flowing inside, like a double eye, staring at me and making me look hairy. Lena, are there any ways to delay time? I gritted my teeth and adjusted all the energy of the Deep 7 type reserved to the anti-barrier barrier. Lena glanced at me, and saw a flash of silence in her eyes, but she quickly pointed, yes, but you have to hear me. Without waiting for me to respond, she took out a small device from the side bag of the battle armor and threw it in the direction of the black shadow. Close your eyes, she shouted, and I did as I subconsciously, and then a dazzling white light burst out, and the entire rift was illuminated as white. That is some kind of high-strength flash interference, specially used to interfere with energy fields and biological senses. The black shadow let out a painful roar, and his touching hands instantly shrank, as if they were burned by something. Go! Lena took advantage of the empty file and yelled. I pushed the control rod hard and moved the platform upwards as fast as possible. The rock walls of the rift flew over us at a rapid speed, and the gravel kept falling down. Several blocks even hit the edge of the platform, almost overturning us. Aiden grabbed the safety belt tightly, and was still muttering, I don't want to die in this horror place, Carl, you'd better be stable. Close your mouth. I yelled back without any worries, and I was not sure. Although the shadow was delayed at the moment, the low voice was still echoing in the helmet, as if warning us, this is just the beginning. After a few minutes, the moving platform finally broke out of the rift, stopped heavily on the surface, and raised a black dust of soil. I gasped, turned off the push-in system, and looked at the direction of the rift through the helmet display. The red lights were still jumping, but the dark shadows did not catch up with them again. It's safe at first, Lena's voice was low, with a burst of fatigue. But this won't let us go, Carl, you have to think of a long way. She said, putting her stump in her eyes, as if she knew something unwilling to say. What's the way to go? I smiled bitterly, took off my helmet and wiped my sweat. Lena, do you know what's going on? It's just that dark shadow and that sound, you're not surprised at all. I stared at her straight, and the trial showed some clues from her face. The other members of the team also watched it, and the atmosphere became a little nervous for a while. Lena was silent for a few seconds, and finally opened her mouth, her voice still cold as ice. I have indeed seen something similar, but not on this planet. It was another mission, another planet that was destroyed. I can't say, Carl, it's not the time now. She paused for a moment and added, but I can tell you that this energy is not formed naturally. They are conscious and will point to people close to the mine. Is it intentional? Aiden interrupted, his face becoming harder than it was just now. You said, will this thing be thinking? Will you take the initiative to kill us? His voice was full of incredible, but Lena just pointed a little and didn't explain it anymore. My heart sank, my brain full of miscellaneous thoughts. The information provided to us by the Alliance did not mention this energy body at all, let alone they were also interested. If what Lena said was true, the level of danger of this mission was far beyond my expectations. What exactly is a deep pure mine? Why would it attract such a ghost? Okay, go back to the base first. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. Aiden, check the equipment's bad situation. Lena, arrange for people to strengthen their defense. I need time to think about how to get there next. After speaking, I turned toward the temporary base. The black broken rock under my feet was stomping on, and my heart seemed to be pressing down on a large stone. After returning to the base, I sat in front of the control platform, staring at the Devil 7 type damage report, and my brain was full of scenes in the rift just now. The shape of the black shadow, the strange sound, and the secret hidden in Lena's words. These things are like a group of irritating things, making me confused at all. Aiden walked over at this time, holding a synthetic protein bar in his hand, and ate the side said, Carl, the platform has been damaged by 30% and the energy module has been wiped out. It will not be able to go down the rift in a short time. Do you think we should give up? This place is too evil. Give up? I sneered and snatched his head. Aiden, do you know how much debt I owe to the Alliance? Give up means that I have to be a coolie in the bottom mine, and I can't even save my life. Also, Drake Harps, do you think you will let us go easily? I said, the low threat in the voice appeared in my brain, and my heart was cold. Aiden heard the sound of his shoulders, and didn't say anything anymore, but just patted me on the shoulder and turned around to repair the equipment. I leaned against the chair, closed my eyes, and tried to relax myself, but my ears always replied with the words, you can't escape. I know that this mission has just begun, and the greater trouble is still at the back. In the next few days, we did not venture down the rift, but focused on repairing equipment and strengthening base defense. Lena patrolled several team members around the world, trying to find more traces about the shadow, but she didn't get much attention every time she came back. The atmosphere at the base is getting more and more stressful. Everyone knows that this planet is not simple, and we, like a group of people, may become abandoned at any time. That night, I was checking the repair progress of the Deeper 7 type. A sudden rushing sound came from the communication channel, which was Lena. Carl, come to the east whistle, there is something unusual. Her words were rarely seen carrying a tightening thread. I felt a tightening in my heart, grabbed my helmet and ran out. The east side sentry point is about 200 meters away from the base. It is a temporary monitoring station used to monitor the activities of surface cracks. When I arrived, Lena was standing in front of the styling scanner, her face blue. Several team members next to him also looked tight, and the stare gun in his hands was loaded. What's going on? I gasped, looking at her video, and saw a dense red signal on the scanner's screen, like some kind of energy wave, quickly approaching from the direction of the surface crack. Same as the thing in the Rift Valley, Lena said softly, with a solemn look in her eyes, but this time it's not the same, it's a lot. They're moving towards the base, and they'll probably arrive in half an hour. Her words hit my heart like a heavy blow. I was stunned for a few seconds, and my brain flew quickly. Half an hour? I gritted my teeth and turned toward the base. Aiden, have you heard it? Turn on all defense systems and bring out all the weapons you can use. Aiden's response was transmitted from the communication channel, and the sound was filled with anxiety. Received, Carl, but our energy is not enough, and the defense barrier can be wiped out at most 10 minutes. It's going to be squeezed for 10 minutes. I yelled back, then turned to Lena. Is there any way to delay them? How much light balls are left like last time? Lena snatched her head, her voice was low. That's a special equipment, only one, and there's nothing now. But I have something else that might be useful. She said, taking out several small devices from the armor, which looked like some kind of miniature bomb. "What is this?" I asked with a smile. She didn't answer directly, but said, "When they get closer, use it. Now prepare the retreat route first. If the base cannot be kept, we have to retreat to the highlands along the Rift Valley, where the terrain is favorable." Her temperament is unquestionable. Although I was unhappy, I also knew that it was not the time to fight. In the next half hour, everyone in the base moved, the defense barrier was activated, the weapons were distributed to everyone's hands, and even some old mining tools were regarded as temporary weapons. Aiden adjusted the AI system and stumbled around. "This mission is simply to let us die. Carl, the bastards in the Alliance must know that there is something wrong here." "So what if you know?" I smiled bitterly, holding the gun in my hand tightly. "I'm saying that these are useless now. Live and then make a fortune." As soon as the voice fell, a low roar suddenly came from outside the base, like the sound of the black shadow in the Rift Valley, but this time, multiple sounds were reunited, and the sound made people's head numb. "Here!" Lena growled and started to attack the darkness outside the base. Looking through the night view mode of my helmet, I saw that the light of the surface cracks suddenly burst, and countless black shadows emerged from it, approaching the base like a group of moving darkness. Their shapes vary, some look like touches, and some look like humans, but they all exude a suffocating pressure. "Let's start." Lena ordered the automatic gun station around the base to open fire first. The energy beams and physical sprays came out like rainstorms and hit the black shadows. Although they could not completely eliminate, they at least slowed down their speed. I held my gun tightly and shot with the team members. I knew in my heart that it was just a cup of water and Carl, the barrier energy is only 30% left. Aiden's voice came from the communication channel, carrying a desperate look. "It will collapse in a few minutes." I gritted my teeth and glanced at the battlefield. The shadows had approached within 100 meters of the base. The barrier began to make a harsh sound, which might collapse at any time. "Lena, use your stuff," I shouted, and she clicked the head, quickly activated the device in her hand, and threw it towards the place where the shadows were densest. After a few seconds, a low-frequency vibration wave exploded, and the black images were interfered with by something, and the actions became extremely slow, and several even scattered directly and turned into a group of black fogs. "Effective." I was delighted, but Lena's voice was still cold. "Don't be too excited, it can only delay for a few minutes and prepare to retreat," she said, starting to direct the team members to move towards the high ground along the Rift Valley. After gritting my teeth and carrying Aiden and a few technical personnel, I knew in my heart that this retreat was just a right to go, and the real crisis was never over. The roar of the shadow revered behind us, and the base's defense barrier finally collapsed as we retreated, and the huge explosion sounded over the night sky. When I looked back, I saw that the base had been completely swallowed by the black fog. The energy was snatching the dead body like a wolf, as if looking for something. I felt cold in my heart, and a thought suddenly appeared in my brain. What they want is the mine we are looking for. "Carl, go!" Aiden pushed me, and then I got back to my senses and speeded up to keep up with the team. The high ground near the Rift Valley is nowhere far away, but the dark shadows behind it have regained their tides, faster than they had just been, as if they were not going to give us any chance to breathe. I held my hand tightly and had only one thought in my brain: no matter what this is, I have to live and figure out what secrets this planet hides. We stumbled towards the high ground beside the Rift Valley. The black broken rocks under our feet were stomped and cracked, and the roars of the black shadows behind us were getting closer and closer, like a group of squeezing wolves biting the air. On my helmet display, the oxygen storage device had already lit up a red warning, and sweat slid into my eyes, pricking me to blink. Aiden gasped beside me, and the AIN screen in his hand was full of malware. He ran and stumbled. "Carl, what kind of ghost place is this, mother? I don't want to die on this broken planet. Close your mouth and run faster." I yelled back with gritted teeth, and I was still unsure. Lena was leading the way. Her fighting armor was covered with dust and scratches, but her pace was still as stable as a robot, and the thrust gun in her hand was ready to fire at any time. Several other remaining team members in the team followed her. All of her faces were full of shock and exhaustion. It was obvious that no one thought we could survive tonight. The highland finally arrived. It was a slightly raised rock layer, with a land of more than 10 meters higher than the surrounding area, which could give us some protection advantages. Lena quickly instructed everyone to disperse and find the cover frame to design temporary firepower points. Aiden and I squatted behind a boulder, gasping and adjusting the end, trying to reactivate the rest of the defense system, while I stared at the direction of the base through the night vision mode of the helmet. The shadows had completely swallowed our temporary base, like a black wave, and the red light flashed in it, like countless eyes looking at us. "Are they fucking?" I asked in a low voice, with a sense of anxiety in the voice. Lena squatted beside me, glanced at the battlefield. Her temperament was still as cold as ice. "They are searching, Carl. These things are not brainless monsters, they have purpose, maybe minds, or us." Her words made my heart sink. I remembered the strange "you can't escape" I heard in the rift before, and suddenly I felt that these black shadows were really playing cats and mice. "Search for minds?" Aiden interjected. His face was harder than he had just seen. "You said, these ghost things also want that thing? Then we're just digging a lot, just run." His voice was full of hope, but I knew that running was not an option at all. The Alliance's pursuit, the threat of Drakeharves, and the dead on my back, these things are more deadly than the shadow. "I can't run," I said, gritting my teeth, shaking the gun in my hand. "We have to figure out what these things are, and the secret of minds. Otherwise, even if we escape, it would be a way to die." Aiden heard it, curled his lips, and said nothing more, but lowered his head and continued to knock on the end of him. "Carl, the defense system can only be another 5 minutes. He raised his head a few seconds later, his voice low. "The energy is almost exhausted. If these black shadows come again, we will not have the chance to even take action." I clicked the head and calculated the speed plate in my heart. The base is gone, and most of the equipment is lost. The only hope now is to find the mine, or at least figure out the weaknesses of these black shadows, otherwise we will not have a way out. "Lena," I turned to her, with a slight trial in her language, "you have said before, you can tell me more about this energy? We are almost dead, what else can't be said?" Her eyes flashed, as if they were hesitant, but in the end she opened her mouth. Her voice was so low that it was so low I couldn't hear it. "That was on another planet, the coin name Grey 9, a mission 5 years ago. Our team's goal was also a deep mine, but after going deep into the shell, we encountered similar energy. They were not creatures, nor pure energy, but a projection of some consciousness." Projection of consciousness? I was stunned for a moment. My brain was full of questions. "You mean, these things are the will of something? Whose will?" Lena slammed her head, with a complex look in her eyes. "I don't know what the specifics are, but they can invade people's brains, control your thoughts, and turn you into puppets. In the end, I was left with me, and everyone else became their tools." There was a trembling sound in her voice, and it seemed that memory was a nightmare for her. After listening, I felt a slight wail on my back, and suddenly I remembered the strange warning in the Rift Valley in my brain. If these dark shadows can really control people, then we can become the next victims at any time. I gritted my teeth and tried to calm myself down. "Then is there any way to deal with them? Since you survived, there must be something to do, right?" Lena was silent for a few seconds, and finally said, "They are afraid of high-frequency energy waves. I took this opportunity to defecate the last mission. But our equipment cannot generate that kind of wave band now, unless..." She paused for a moment, and looked at the Deep 7 skeleton behind me. "Unless you can modify that machine, adjust its core reaction stack to the limit, and simulate a similar high-frequency wave. Improve deep gauge?" I was stunned for a moment, and looked down at the broken machine that was dragged to the high ground. It was attacked by the shadow's touch when retreating, and the diamond part was almost wiped out, but the core reactor was still hard to use. My brain was flying at a speed, and the feasibility was calculated. It is okay in theory, but the reaction pile has a very high risk of superloading operations. Maybe it will explode directly and blow us up all over the sky. No other choice, Lena said coldly, with a desperate look in her eyes. If you want to try, you have to wait for death. I gritted my teeth, knowing that she was right. The situation is so bad that it can't be worse, and there is at least some hope for a snatch. I turned to Aiden. Help me remove the reactor control module, and I need to reprogram its output frequency. You are responsible for monitoring the energy reading. Don't let it explode too early. Aiden clicked a little, and although his face was still difficult to see, he still moved quickly. We squatted beside the deep gauge, and we were busy dismantling the parts with sweat dripping in the helmet, blurring the visual line. Lena continued to stand on the high ground with other team members, and the energy beams of her stepping guns kept tearing the darkness, trying to delay the approaching of the shadows. They are moving. Lena's voice suddenly came from the communication channel, carrying a hint of anxiety. Carl, hurry up, they are starting to rush over. I looked down and sure enough, the black images received some signals, and the speed suddenly accelerated, and they rushed towards the high ground like a group of black fogs. The red light flashed in it, as if countless mouths were roaring. Aiden, read! I shouted, and my fingers flew fast on the control module to try to adjust the output frequency of the reactor. Aiden's voice was filled with tightness. Energy is loaded with 80% of the energy, and you may be loaded at any time. Carl, you'd better be quick. The reaction piled up with a low buzzing sound, like a crumbling wild beast was gasping for breath. Then, an invisible wave burst out from the machine, which was invisible to the naked eye, but the air was filled with a certain sense of pressure. The black shadows roared painfully at the moment when they waved, and their actions became extremely slow. Several even scattered directly, turning into a group of black fogs and dissipated in the night. Effective! Aiden shouted excitedly, but I couldn't get up because the readers of the reaction pile were approaching the line of danger and could explode at any time. I gritted my teeth and shouted to Lena, "Where now? Take everyone to the back of the Highland and leave this machine." Lena clicked a little and quickly pointed the team members back. Aiden and I also grabbed the final equipment and followed. But the shadows were not completely repelled. Although the high-frequency waves caused them to be created, several larger shadows still gathered again and made more pointed roars, as if they were irritated. My heart sank, knowing that this was just delaying time and the real battle had not begun. Sure enough, a few seconds later, the buzzing sound of the reaction pile suddenly became harsh, and Aiden's final emergency alarm came out. "Carl, it's over. It's going to explode. Run!" I shouted and pushed Aiden forward, but it was too late. The reaction pile exploded behind us, and a group of hot white light swallowed up part of the Highland. The huge impact waves knocked Aiden and I to the ground directly, and the display of the helmet instantly turned into a snowflake. I rolled a few times, my ears were full of buzzing. When I got up, I found that half of the Highland had been blown into scorched earth, and the black shadows were also affected by the explosion, and they slowly disappeared. "Carl, are you still alive?" Aiden's voice came from the communication channel, carrying a weak spot. I coughed a few times, checked my helmet, and found that my oxygen system was being hurt, but it still works. "Alive, where are you?" He snorted, got up and patted the dust on his body. "I'm reluctantly dead, but I really have to suffer this broken mission." Lena left at this time. Her face was harder than she had just seen. The explosion blew them, but it didn't solve the problem. "Carl, we had to go deep into the rift and face the mines directly, otherwise these things would be reborn infinitely." Her words were like a heavy blow to my heart. I was stunned for a few seconds. My brain was full of misunderstandings. Back to the rift? Isn't that a self-submission network? Going down the rift? Aiden interrupted, his voice full of disbelief. "Lena, are you crazy? We just escaped from that ghost place. Are you looking for death when we go back now?" But Lena just glanced at him coldly, without saying a word, and there was a sudden decision in her eyes. "I know, she is not joking, she has her reasons." "She said right," I said, gritting my teeth. Although I was not willing to do it, reason told me that this was the only way out. The source of these shadows is in the mine. If we don't solve it, we will never escape. Aiden, check the remaining equipment and see what else can be used. I'll prepare the final detector. Although Aiden was full of unwilling face, he still clicked the head and turned to clean up his body. In the next few hours, we used all the resources to make a set of useful dive equipment. Lena carried the remaining team members to check the weapons, and we recalibrated a small detector and tried to collect more points of data before the downward rift. The sky of Haging 13 was still dead silent, and the light of the surface cracks became even more dazzling, as if calling us back. Carl, Lena walked up to me before she left, her voice low. If the mind is really the source of these energy, it may be more dangerous than we think. I've said before, it can control people's consciousness, and if you feel unfavorable, tell me right away. There was a slight concern in her eyes, and this was the first time I saw this expression on her face. I understand, I clicked a little, but I was in a loss. If it is really like she said that minds can invade the brain, then we may not have the chance to come back this time. But I don't have a choice. The dead, the threat of the Alliance, and the tragic traits of Dracarves, these things forced me to move forward with all my head. The process of lowering the rift was smoother than imagined. Perhaps because the previous explosion allowed the shadow to retreat at a time, we did not encounter any obstacles along the way. The ape red light deep in the rift is getting stronger and stronger, and the air is filled with a sense of sensation of pressure, like something is judging us. I held the control rod tightly and slowly descended with the team. The detector's screen showed a huge energy reaction, just at the bottom of the rift, less than 500 meters away from us. Minnie, Aiden said in a low voice, with a burst of excitement, but more of a terror, Carl, are we really going to get close to that thing? I didn't say anything, just clicked the head, and my heart was just playing. When we finally reached the bottom, the scene in front of us stunned everyone. It was not a simple crystal, but a huge, translucent sphere with agary red light flowing inside, like a beating heart, and the surrounding rock walls were full of energy shadows similar to black shadows, like its guardianship. What is this, Mother? Aiden's voice was trembling. I was about to reply when a harsh noise suddenly came from my helmet. Then, the low voice sounded again, you, finally, come. This time it was not a warning, but an invitation, as if we had been waiting for us to join the Ronaldo website. Lena quickly took the gun and looked around. Carl, be careful, it's trying to contact you. Her words fell, and a sudden burst of pain in my brain, as if I was being stormed in by something, and my eyes were full of red phantoms. I gritted my teeth and tried to resist, but the sound became clearer and clearer. Give up, your fate has long been destined. Carl! Aiden shouted and pushed me. Only then did I come back to my senses and realize that I was kneeling on the ground, and the control rod in my hand almost fell. I gasped, my brain full of chaotic scenes, but reason told me that I could not be controlled by it. I clenched my teeth and said to Lena, start all the interfering equipment, don't let it get close to us. Lena clicked the head and quickly threw out a few interfering devices to try to stop the invasion of the sound. At the same time, I activated the detector and tried to analyze the structure of the mine and find a way to destroy it. It is shown on the screen that the core of the mine has an unstable energy point. If it can be accurately hit, it can theoretically trigger a locking reaction and make it collapse. Aiden, help me lock the table. I shouted, and he quickly operated the end, swiping his fingers on the screen. The dark shadows around the mine began to regain their slumbers, as if they felt our ideas, and they roared over. Lena took the team members to stop as hard as she could, but these things were killed at all. Several team members were quickly swallowed by black fog, and her voice was heard in the communication channel. It's locked. Aiden finally shouted, and I gritted my teeth and activate the energy cannon of the deep cyclone, which was a hit to the accuracy point. The blue energy beam teared the darkness and hit the core accurately. The ape-red sphere emitted a violent shock, like a painful wail, which then began to collapse quickly, and the cracks spread from the center. Retreat! I shouted, and led the remaining people to the upper level of the rift. The collapse of the mines triggered a huge energy storm, the rift began to shake violently, and large areas of rock wall collapsed. The shadow roared the last time in the storm, as if it was being torn apart by something, gradually turning into nothingness. We tried our best to get out of the rift, and finally climbed to the surface at the last moment. The mine energy storm away swallowed the entire rift, and the ape red light gradually dimmed. I lay on the ground, gasping for a lot of breath. The oxygen in my helmet was almost zero, but at least, we survived. "Carl, the mine is gone." Aiden sat next to me, his voice full of fatigue. "We're running out of this trip, the Alliance won't let us go." I smiled bitterly and slammed, "It's not running out of nothing, at least we've figured out the truth about this. Drake Harves, that guy, must know the secret of the mine, he won't let it go." Lena left at this time, with no expression on her face, but there was a little more complex in her eyes. "Carl, although the mine is gone, its data is still in the detector. The Alliance will continue to track it down, and we have to prepare." I clicked a little, and I knew in my heart that this game was not over, and the real trouble might have just begun.